So very good morning, and let's continue with our lesson number 6, which we had to continue, which we learned about all of, which is do loops. Okay, so we had seen how loops can be used to reduce your redundant coding or repetitive coding. So this is the syntax: do index variable equal to start value to end value, and this is the incrementing your statements. End is for loop. So we know at the end of every do loop, whenever it encounters end, your index variable is always been incremented to the next value. And though when it ends at this, or when the end point comes, the index variable value in your data is always beyond the end point, correct? So this is iterative do loop, which works when you exactly know any iterations to perform, right? So within the data, you can have multiple iterations as well. So we had seen this earlier also. So this is two loops. So we had seen year, within year, we have month. So this end is for month, this end is for year, and data step itself is another looping. So this is all termed as nested do loops. Correct? So we had seen this last time. Now we are moving ahead to know what is conditional do loops. Now, what is a conditional do loop? Now look at this data. Now, when you are writing do month equal to 1 to 12 to calculate specific amount for savings of a particular data, we know that it is for 12 months. So here the things have been known that for 12 months, we have to find out how much the savings will be there into the account, correct? So this is all good. So, but what is, so for example, if I give the condition that how many years it will take for a specific amount to reach a specific target amount. All good. So this is what the condition I have provided. Are you getting it? What I gave you the condition scenario, that how many
Yeah.
years it will take, that in case your savings reach more than 30,000 or 3,000, if you are saving for a year, suppose maybe 1,000 rupees, or for a year or every month you are saving 100 rupees or $100. So how many years it will take, or how many months it will take to reach 3,000? So do you know how it works if we wrote this type of statement? So this is fixed. Here we are already getting, so it will calculate for 12 months. But in case I am given the scenario that this is the 100 rupees that you are been saving for each year maybe. So how many years it will take to reach the account savings of 3,000 or greater than 3,000? So how will give the condition here if you want to stop the loop? Any idea? Just think upon it. Is it possible? How many years it will take, or how many months it will take, if I simply give you this condition that your account had to exit 3,000 and above? So you don't know, right? How to give
Yes, sir.
start and stop point, correct? So that is why
Yes.
we are going to use conditional loop. So this is what we are going to use: do, until, and do while. So condition determines how many times the loop is executed. So you're writing this condition with do until and giving the condition it's do until this saving it's exceeded more than 3,000. And then either of it, that once the condition is reached that the value is greater than 3,000, your loop will stop processing. So what will happen for do until this value is greater? So it will first check the condition at the beginning. Is the current value of savings greater than 3,000? No. Then it will enter the loop, calculate the values, calculate your incrementing month, and again, of course, because of end, your looping goes back. Again, it will check what is the current value of savings. Is the current value greater than 3,000? If no, then again it will enter the loop and move ahead. So this is what in do until you give the condition, and that is what we use this statement as conditional do loops. So conditional do loops are where we use the words of keywords like do until and do while. Do while is exactly opposite, where do while यहाँ पे हमने लिखा है until को, क्योंकि वो पहले condition check करेगा फिर enter करेगा, लेकिन while में ये same condition वो reverse लिखना पड़ेगा, that do while saving is less than 3000. So this condition in while is checked at the bottom. Okay, that is what it's telling. Executes repeatedly while a condition is true. Whereas until में क्या होता है? Executes repeatedly until a condition is true. Rest everything is same. Only here it's written do until an expression, do while an expression. Rest your repetitive coding and end. So as I said you, this condition is greater than 3000. In while this condition is less than equal to 3000. ये उल्टा लिखा है क्योंकि while में एंड जब आता है तब वो कंडीशन दिखता है इज योर सेविंग्स लेस देन इक्वल टू 3000. If yes, then it goes and reads the statements. Okay, so that's what it's telling here about do while and do until. So executes repeatedly until a condition is true, executes repeatedly while a condition is true. Okay, so let's understand this activity A02 for chapter number 6. So we have it, lesson number 6, A02. So it's telling run the program and view the savings 3K table. How many months until James exit 3000 in savings? So see, it's written 300, 3000. Okay, it's a condition. Do until your savings is greater than 3000. Month and savings को zero रखा है initially because they are going to get incremented, correct? So that is accumulating total. So you are executing this data step. So the question was in the activity that how many months until James exit 3000? So when you see your output data set, look at James, it takes nearly 3 months to exit, 12 months to exit 3000. Correct? Right? So we have Linda also, who is saving amount of 300 and she takes nearly 10 months to exit 3000. Same for Mary, she is saving 275. She takes 11 months to exit 3000. Whereas Robert, his amount is a bit greater, which is greater comparative to all other, which is 350. And he's taking 9 months to have its saving accounts to reach about 3000. Okay. So first step we have done, then it's telling how much savings does James have at the month, So we have seen it is so much. Correct? So change your do until statement to do while statement and modify the expression to produce the result. Now, why they have asked us to do this? Because if I write the condition in reverse order with while, let's check whether it's giving us the same values as we have with until. Okay, so let's give this data set name as while, and this data which has been created is until, and we will give print data equal to your savings 3K until name, and for every data we'll see its output. Okay, so that we can compare the result whether the conditions which we have given as reverse order is still giving us the same result or a different result. All right. ये until है, spelling check करना है हमें. So this is the result for do until, this is the result for do while. See the values, number of months and amount. See this, see this. So if you want to know, I can give this title for both the results. So ये while वाला है. So I'll write title, which is the result using do while, whereas यहाँ पे प्रॉफिट को लिखेंगे title result for do until. See, this is the result for do until, this is the result for do while. Though we have written the reverse condition, but result is the same. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Sham? Okay. So that's what it's telling. Run the program and view the savings 3K table. Are the results for James identical with do while compared to do until? So when you see the result, yes, it's same. Because the same code I have copied and I've used for do while, only I have changed the condition. In until we were writing your savings is greater than 30, but in while we are writing it exactly opposite the condition telling saving is less than 3,000. Okay. So this is what it's telling. Correct. So this is what we had written the condition for do while. And yes, the result is identical for both do until and do while. So while what it does, while checks the condition at top of the loop, therefore we are writing it always less than value with your target value. So it will check whether earlier it is exactly earlier. If it is less, then only it will enter the loop. Either which ways, if it finds that the current value of your savings has already exited 3,000, then it will not enter the loop. So it's exactly opposite to do until. डू अंटिल में क्या होता है, ये कंडीशन एट द एंड ऑफ द लूप को चेक किया जाता है, इसलिए every statement has a chance to execute at least once in your data step for do until. So that's what this is trying to tell you, that do while checks the condition at the top of the loop. So that's what it's doing. So until always execute once for every statement, whereas while it will find if this is false, then it will never enter the loop. So while executes only if the condition is true. That's why this condition we write is opposite to until. All good? And thus we have the same
Yes, ma'am.
demo. Fine. So what you can do is we can just open this demo D03. So this is the conditional statement and this is what it is. So what I would expect you to open this demo, read these statements and work on this. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
सिंटैक्स अगर देखना है तो मैं ये एक्टिविटी आपको कॉपी करके देती हूँ. You can always try this activity also. I will give you this code. First, run this activity exactly, observe the code, and then go ahead and do this demo.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, suppose this demo. Now let's understand that you can use a statement of your conditional do loop as well as your indexing do loop together. This telling you can combine iterative as well as condition loops. So you can write do index variable equal to start to stop. If you have any increment, you can give, and you give your while or until expression. That is your condition. So the do loop stops executing when the stop value is exited or condition is made, whichever is first. So you can combine your iterative do loop statement as well as your conditional statements of do loop. So SAS decides when to stop, either when it reaches the stop point or the condition is true, any which one. So look at here, it's telling you are writing do month 1 to 12 until saving is greater than 5,000. So any of the condition is true, it will stop. Either you use while or you use until. So it's telling at the bottom, we know until it always checks the condition at the bottom of your do loop. So it's telling at the bottom of loop, the condition is checked before the index column is incremented for do until in this iterations, whereas for while, at the bottom of the loop, the index column is incremented. So at the top of the loop, the condition is checked. Hence, at the bottom of the loop, your value is always getting incremented for this iterative do condition or iterative conditions. So for this to understand, let's work on this demo D04. Okay, so if you check this, so it's taking nearly 13 months. Now, why this 13 months is? Because we know the code which you have executed is while. So while में क्या होता है? पहले increment करता है. That's what it's telling. At the bottom of the loop, the index column is always incremented. And that's why you see that first, that whenever it will go and check the condition, your index variable is already incremented. That is the reason why the result is always top value beyond your number of months. So though it's taking 13 months to reach the saving, which is greater than 3,000, but this 13 is nothing but it's going to be actually 12th month. Why? Because it's a do while statement where in do while your condition is checked at the top, but your incrementation of your index loop is always incremented beyond the stop while when it encounters end. Okay, and the same if we see with do until, you'll find the result values are same, but your stop values is for while it is 1 point incremented beyond your stop value. That's what is showing you here also. See, it's 10, 10, but here it's 11, but the value is same. Here it's 6, but it's 5. So here it's 13 because we know after 12, it always is 13 months. Okay, so this is what it's doing, that in while, when you are writing both your iterative do loops and your conditional loops, in while it will always check your condition first, but when it comes to the end of the loop, your index variable is always incremented your stop value. All good. That's why you see an extra month been added in the result for while. And this is the exact month when your data is incremented. So that's what it's telling in your until. It's telling the bottom, at the bottom of the loop, the condition is checked before your index column is incremented. Okay, so this is what in do loops you have known. So do loops can also be written in combination with arrays. So for more details, you can read this. And of course, to understand how do loops works, you can go and read your help document. So did you understand this demo?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what we can do is, you just open this demo D04, read the steps carefully and execute your code. Then you'll find what it was trying to do. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yes, Diksha.
ma'am, my SAS studio is taking a bit of time. It is happening, but it's taking a bit of time. So can we continue in the meantime?
Yeah, sure. So it's maybe on net internet issue, but it's okay. We'll move ahead. So post this, actually, it's the end of your chapter, and we'll start with the next chapter, which is lesson number 7. Okay, hold on. So post this, you have practice and end of the chapter. Okay. Apart from it, now
Yes.
let's start with our lesson number 7, which is all about restructuring the data. So what do you mean by restructuring a data set? So restructuring is a concept where your columns values or your column becomes rows and your rows becomes column. Okay. Now, why this situation occurs where we have to restructure this table and why it is the need. Okay, so that's what we'll understand in this chapter, which is restructuring tables. So there are two topics in this: restructuring this data with your data step and restructuring data with a procedure called proc transfers. So there are two ways to restructure: either use a data step or either you can directly use a procedure called as proc transfers. So restructuring data with data step. So that's what it's telling. Uh, Columns are being converted into rows and rows are into columns. Therefore, this is a wide structure, which is actually the table which is sideways greater, but the same table, when we convert it, it becomes vertically stretched or bigger. Hence, it is telling that you have restructured rows to columns and columns to rows. All good? So this is called as narrow structured and this is wide structured table. Now looking into this scenario, now look into both of this data structure. One table has the information about students and their scores in maths and reading subject. Whereas the same information, look at here in a second table named as class taste narrow. Look at here how it is given. We have given this column as rows and this values have become values to do distinct subjects for single person. You have two independent rows for individual subject, and this you have given the name as test subject, and this values you have given the name as test score, which has become for maths reading for each individual person. So it is a wide structured table where every individual was having the value in a row, but in a narrow structured you are increasing the rows, so you have multiple rows for a single value depending on how many subjects and its scores you have. Got it? How it is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So both tables include the same information, but they are structured differently. Okay. Now looking into this, you tell me which table is more worth to use to calculate means on your maths and reading data, or what should be the mean scores generally. So which table you are using to calculate the mean score? Is it that you'll be using this class test wide or class test narrow? So which table is suitable for your proc means to calculate means of scores?
Ma'am, suitable is the second one
Correct. It is termed
because it is only having like one table of values.
correct. So you can use your var statement test score and you get the mean of the test scores. Correct. So that's what it's telling you,
Yes.
that you directly get the mean of your test score. So your second table, which is narrow, is actually appropriate. So this is how, depending on the situation. Now, in case in future, it was said to you that this table is given and calculate the mean of the tests. So it's not possible here to calculate mean of the test because maths and reading here you cannot use mean. So it will be mean of scores for all this, for only maths and then reading. So it was impossible. So hence it was a analyst responsibility to restructure this table in this form and use it in your procs. Correct? So that's what we had done. And this is how, as a data analyst, you may face the situation in upcoming days. Okay. So again, there is a discussion. When would the wide table structure be preferred? Then in case here narrow structured was used, than when the wide structure is preferred. So in this scenario, what we did is we restructured a wide into narrow. So every column value was converted into a multiple row value. So you can use the data step to convert a wide structure to a narrow step. Okay, narrow structure. So for that, let's see this demo, which is 7D01. So see, simply we are creating a new data set from reading from input data. You are keeping these three columns. You are giving a length, creating a new column called subject. We are telling subject is maths, score is a column which will come from the math table. Now, if you observe this table carefully for class test, which is a wide structured data, observe it carefully. So we don't have any additional column apart from name, maths, and reading. So we want this maths and reading to be taken as rows, and this should be the values of column score, correct? Sorry, subject, and this should be the values of score. And that is why in this we have created subject if it is math. So there's no condition, but you're telling first sub, because we know there are only two subjects, maths, and the value for this math should come from the column math. So you're creating a column as score and you're writing it immediately output. Again, second is a subject reading score coming from the reading column. So you have reading column this score. Therefore, for each student, you will have two rows for maths and reading individual scores. So that's what its output immediate. So when I execute this data step, you will find your wide structured data is converted to narrow structured. Okay. So this is what it has created a narrow structure. See. So if you want to see the output of it, you can write print data equal to class underscore test narrow. Run. See, every student has two subjects and its respective scores. Now on this data, what I can do is I will use proc means data equal to var for your test score, or it's a column called score, and you want only mean. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So now when I execute this, I'll find means of my score. Again, if you don't want this, simply write max decimal is 0, and you'll get all the summary statistics, mean, median, lower for your score. So mean score is 78. So minimum score is 55, maximum is 99, and the deviation between the values is so much. Total number of rows is 38. Got it? So this is how you have converted a wide structured data into narrow structure. So that's what. Now restructuring data with your data step. So this is what we are now going to do is now narrow to wide. So you can use a data step to read multiple rows before writing one row to the output table. So this can be converted into wide. So two rows is written into single value as a single row for a single subject or a student. So for that you can use conditional statement telling if your test subject is math, then create a column math where the value is coming from test score. So this is what it will do. Else, if the subject is reading, then create a column reading, and the value for reading will be coming from test score. This is what it's happening. Okay, understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so why like it is vice versa. So you have this activity A07. So let's check this. So A02 is the activity, I suppose. Yes. So 7 chapter A02. So it's telling examine the data step code and run the program, uncomment the retain statement and run the program again. Why is retain statement necessary? Now understand. You are retaining, or before retaining, let's execute that you are creating these two statements. Okay, so before it, what I can do is पहले हमने ये जो wide और narrow create किया था. Let's use data to create class as wide data set. Okay, set from your class narrow जो हमने पहले create किया था, and I give the condition if your subject is the column is equal to, so what was the condition? So it is math. Then what we have to create? A new column, correct? So that's what it's telling. Then math is equal to test code. So you're creating, then create a new column called as math where the value is going to come from test code. Else, if the subject value is reading, then reading a column should be created where the value is coming from score. Now understand, I'm not using any retain statement, but I'm just converting a narrow to wide. Let's see whether it's working. See what has happened. So let's see its proc print and check what has happened. See what has happened. It has created every subject's multiple rows, but what has happened? Math column where now alphabet for first row, it's creating subject math, it's taking its value, but we know it's not having reading, but its reading is coming to the next line. That's why it's giving you multiple dots where that particular subject is not sufficing. Getting it? So what we can do is, hence, if I say I want to keep a column, suppose name, subject, and math and reading. Let's see what is coming in your output. It's still the same. So in the first round, because of first if then condition, you're telling if subject is math, create a column math with a value coming from score 82 that's there. But this first iteration or first condition is also creating reading, but at that time it's not having the value here because reading is the column been created when during the compilation phase. During compilation phase, when SAS reads this statement, it is an assignment statement. It's creating a column subject with the value math, then it's creating a column mat with this. So this is during compilation, this columns are created. That is why when it is reading or going through the execution phase, when it reaches here, reading column is already there, but it is not having values immediately in this condition. Hence, it's showing missing here. Same goes for math, same goes for every individual. Are you getting it? And that is why what we are going to do is we are going to make use of a retain statement where we are going to retain the values for maths and reading. Okay, so let's see how it works now. Because at every iteration, it should not have. So again, see here, it's coming here like this. So to avoid this, that's what it was telling. Name and math को भी retain करेंगे. चलो. Name also we will retain. Initially again the same. You have to process it by column name
Ma'am,
because yes,
can you please repeat again because your voice was breaking.
okay. So this is what, because we have to process your data by group, so we're writing by statement. With retain, it will retain the value in every iteration for math and your subject column. That's why we are using retain. And now when you execute, you'll be able to have this values been created, same like what we have in this. So without retain, you will see this the original values which we had seen. It was not having the values. But now when you retain it, you will find your data is been processed within the group, and for every row will have its individual tests for maths and reading. Got it? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's telling add a subsetting if statement to include only the last row. Now what is happening? If you observe it carefully, our result which we had seen here is getting two rows for every data, which this first row is not required or this is not required. So what we can do is within this every group, because we have written a by statement in your data, you can write simply if last dot name. Why I'm using this? Because we are processing my data in groups by name. That's why we know whenever we write a by statement in a data step, by default SAS creates two temporary variables, first dot and last dot. So because it's grouping having two values, we will write first dot, last dot. So I've just accepted that select only the last value within every name, and that's why the result is coming as what we expected as a narrow data. So let's drop subject also. So instead of this, because subject has become column, now simply execute your data step and check out. See now, name math reading, name maths reading. That's it. So this is how you have converted a narrow structured data to a wide structured data. Got it? Okay, I've given you the code. Just try it without retain. So that is this activity. Move ahead with this activity 7A02. So open this activity. It's the same thing what I had shown. Just work on it. Go ahead. Done, Dikshant? Yes. Dikshant, activity A02 for chapter number 7. All right, so I believe with this activity is done. Let's move ahead. So this is what you had seen, that for every row you was getting multiple values. So when you are processing it with a by statement and with retain, this is what had happened. Then let's click only the last row among the group of name and you will get the exact output, and thus you have a exercise. So I leave this exercise for your self study. Okay. Fine. So this is practice. So moving ahead, let's see how one can perform a restructuring of data step by using a procedure called as transpose. So this is termed as proc transpose. So look at the syntax. It's proc transpose, the input data which you want to transpose and the output which will get transposed. So it's like proc print. Okay. ID column is the statement where ID means identifying column, which is like, suppose you have processed your data with an identifying column. Suppose you had ID for employees or roll number for your students. Okay, so that will be the key column. And var is a column on which you will be transposing. So proc transpose can restructure data with simple statements. So of course, there are limited statements in this, but still it will perform a transpose in a very quick process. So let's do this activity. So we have this activity with A07, 7 chapter A03. So it's telling highlight your proc print and run the selection. Note how many rows are in class data. Okay, so we are working with SAS.class data, SAS help.class, where we find we have number of columns are 5. So name, sex, age, height, weight. Okay, so look at the values carefully. You have student, its sex, its age, its height, and weight, correct? Then highlight the proc transpose and run the data. Now you're simply using proc transpose, okay? So as per the syntax which we have seen on slides, proc transpose your input data out equal to rest all and run. But in our current activity, we are simply writing proc transpose your input data and run. Now observe your log, what it is coming first. So what log is telling? 19 observations were read from dataset when you're using proc transpose for sashelp.class. By default, it creates a new dataset with the default name data1. So even if you do not write here out equal to, it is creating a new dataset and this will get transposed. Now, when you have observed your earlier data, we had seen this dataset contains name, age, sex, which are your character columns, correct? Whereas weight and height were numeric. So when you see the output of proc transpose, you'll find age, height, weight, all are numeric columns which are getting transposed. And see, by default, this rows has become columns. Height, weight have become the rows which were the columns. So if you want to again observe this table carefully, just open sashelp.class. So this is what, see, name and age are character, age, height, and weight are numeric, which are your columns. By default, only numeric columns for transpose, and all your numbers, which are your total 19 rows, this rows have been converted to 19 columns. See, so this is what has happened. Okay, all good. Next, what they are telling here is, so we had seen all this. So it's telling answer the following questions. Which columns from input table are transposed into rows? What does each column in output represent? So that we have already seen. So this was general default proc transpose which had happened. Correct. So each column corresponds to student's row from your input table, and this is what has happened. Correct. Okay. Now let's move ahead with upcoming activity. So it's telling use the same program, add out equal to, and give this name for creating an output data set. So what we can do is same code, I'm using it, and I'm giving here out equal to, and I give the name of the data set as class underscore T. Okay. Then it's telling add an ID statement. So I'll be writing an ID statement and run the statement with name. So name ID means a identifying column. Okay. Now when I execute this proc transpose with your earlier one, now you'll find that this is what the names are now coming on your columns, which are identifying. So for every student, you have its name, its age, its height, its weight, correct? Now what you can do is you don't want age, or you may want only height and weight to be default as your rows. So var by default selects only numeric columns, and by default proc transpose converts or it transposes only numeric columns. That's what we have observed. So select height and weight column to be seen in your output. And now when you execute this, this is what you see, only height and weight has been converted. So from a narrow structured data, you have converted to wide structured data, correct? So this is what you had seen the changes on your report. Okay. So this is what we had seen. All good. So you have created a new data set where you have created this output data. All right. So what is this by? So you can also group your data with this by statement. So by the by statement, the transpose data within groups. So your input table must be sorted by the same columns that you specify in the by statement. So let's see this example where you can use a narrow to a wide structure by using this statement by. So each unique column will be into a single row. Combination of by value creates one row in an output. So within this group, this all will be written into single row. So multiple winds have become the columns, and this values have become rows. And though this is a group, it's become a single row because of by. So by season, basin name, but see to it, season, basin name, all are been earlier previously sorted. Okay, and thus you have the same demo to observe it. So from wide, again, you can convert it to narrow by using, you can also use proc transpose to complete one row into multiple rows. So for this, let's see this activity A05. So you have activity for this chapter number 7 A05. Okay. So first, let's observe your input data, which is storm top 4. So this is about the wind. So for every season within each basin, you will have 4 winds values. So this is your wide structure, which now will be converted into narrow. So that's what it's telling you. Then transpose, see, you're creating a new data and you're using by. So what are you going to have the output to be transposed for numeric? Wide is the numeric columns. So that's what it's telling, that run the program by default proc transpose all numeric columns from wind 1 to wind 4, 5. So that's what we had seen this result. This okay by default. Okay. So this is the original column, right? So you can add your var statement. So var, you select the columns from wind 1 to wind 2. So it's telling add var in proc transpose, only wind 1 and wind 2 should be done. So write wind 1, wind 2. Okay, now just check this by using this output. See, wind 1, wind 2, these are the values. But what you can do is you can rename this to max wind mile per hour and you can drop this name. All good? So that's what it's telling now. what are the names of the columns that contain the column names and the values which are transposed. So that's what we had seen. Okay. Now, moving back, this is what we had seen, correct? So this is what we had got. So what is this? So let's see how you can overcome. So let's rename this name as wind rank and prefix. You can give it as wind. So call one, you write as prefix. So these are the upcoming options here. So here you can write this name column should be renamed as wind rank. Okay, wind rank. And you can also give another option in this out data itself, giving it prefix for column one. So you can use your another option for your output, which is termed as prefix. Prefix equal to, you tell that it is the output which comes call one. You give the value instead of call one will be as it is. So call will be given the name as wind one. Okay, so simply write here prefix wind max mile per hour. So that one remains as it is. All right. So if you'll see, this one remains as it is. Okay. So these are some of the options which you can use. So how would you change the name of column in the output table to exclude the number one? So you can use rename equal to dataset name. So that's what it is. Rename equal to call one to call one. So instead of using prefix, you can also use in your output data set, you can write like this, rename equal to, give it, telling your call one should be renamed as wind mile per hour. Okay, and this you can any which one. Okay, this is just some of the options provided. So when you execute this and check the output, you'll find now it is changed. All good? So that is all about. So when might you prefer to use data step instead of proc transpose to restructured data and vice versa? So when you have more data manipulating activities to be done when you are transposing, use data step. Else you can use proc transpose. So transposing more in detail, you can read and go ahead on this link. Else you can transpose the data step by using arrays also. So reading arrays will be easy when you go on your third document. So with this, we have done with your PG2, as well as with this, we are concluding with your base SAS also. So practice all your new SAS skills by completing and comprehending all your activities, demonstrations, and practices. So you can go into the given link to know more about SAS courses and understand more in detail about programming 1 and programming 2. And hence, at the end of this chapter, you have practice, and that is the end of successfully completing your base SAS. So the next step after completing base SAS is moving to advanced, which is learning macros and SQL, which is more beneficial for you, and simultaneously getting yourself prepared for appearing for the certification of base SAS. So with this note, I'll stop for the day. If you have any doubts, any queries, please get back to me on this given. You know my number, you know my email ID as well. So please connect with me. So please connect whenever you have any questions. And yes, wish you all the best. Take care and bye.